Hello all, this is Subbu. Today we have a technology leader, Jordan. I've known him for 2 years. Jordan is my go-to person when I have technical leadership questions at a top-down level. So when we are making organizational technical decisions, Jordan is the person who I always go to. Jordan, on your own words, if you can introduce yourself, that'll be great.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, first of all. Jordan Wester, I lead our professional services team at Protagona, which is a AWS consulting firm. Started my career as a software engineer almost 16 years ago to the day. And so gone through software engineering, did a lot of web development, front-end development, which I'll talk about here in a minute, and then got into the cloud and DevOps space around 2015 or so, and just really fell in love with that whole ecosystem and just the challenges and new ways of thinking that brought. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Jordan, I think you briefly mentioned about Protagona. I would love to learn about your typical workday.
Yeah, it changes week to week sometimes, so I can give you a typical flavor. We are almost 3 years in now, and so I don't know if we're a startup anymore, but it's still a company that you got to wear multiple hats. And so in consulting, there's doesn't feel like there's ever a balance between the sales and the new projects that are coming in to going and focusing on recruiting and hiring all the top talent to go perform those projects. And so it feels like there's a constant balance of either going and selling and identifying the new projects or finding top talent out on the market. So those are always the two big things that we focus on, and it kind of shifts week to week between the two.
Awesome. So you kind of juggle between people challenges, tech challenges, program management, and it's all over the place. So yeah. Perfect. So I think I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions and both people tech and process space. But I do, if it's okay, I would love to understand how you spend your weekends. Do you work or do you have fun? What do you do?
I think most people think, a newer company, you're probably working every weekend, nights and weekends. I think we are fortunate in that I think we've got a pretty healthy work-life balance. I really need to recharge. I love to spend the time outdoors on the weekends, especially since a lot of my week is behind the screen on calls and stuff like that. And so I love to get outdoors, do anything from gardening. Kids love to go hiking and camping. So we're usually outdoors on the weekend doing something outside.
Interesting. So if it's okay to ask again, you're from Texas. What type of outdoor activities are there?
Probably not your typical, you think we all ride around on horses and stuff. We love to kayak, love fishing, and recently got into, I think somehow during COVID, I got bored and got into sailing. That really piqued my interest. And so done a bit of sailing out on the water whenever I can. And yeah, there's a lot to do in Texas.
Okay, so it looks like in my next visit, I know what I can do. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I think some of my audience are young engineers who are trying to get ready for their career. I do want to get some of your thoughts around career, but before getting into the depth of it, I want to understand your career. Like, what inspired you to pursue your career? I think you've grown, you've become a vice president of an organization now, and become a people and technology leader. What inspired you to start and become what you have become today?
Yeah, I had an interesting kind of path into this. Honestly, from the time I can remember as a kid, I wanted to be a pilot, actually. My dad was a pilot. That's all I really wanted to do. And so that's kind of the only thing I thought about all the way to starting college, and wasn't great timing. It was actually right after 9/11, and a lot of the pilot opportunities just weren't there. And so I kind of had to take a step back and figure out, okay, what else do I want to do with my life? And it took me a while. I kind of jumped around to different majors, spent time in engineering as a mechanical engineer early in my college career, and then actually jumped over to architecture for a little bit. That was an interesting pivot. And then eventually just kind of fell in love with the computer science side, but majored in something called management information systems. That was kind of a blend of computer science and business. And it's kind of funny. There's a lot of parallels with what we do today, where it's understanding enough about different industries and the challenges that are in those industries, and figuring out how we take technology and solve a lot of those problems. So that's what initially kind of piqued my interest, and still does today.
Interesting. What piqued the interest of getting into AWS and going down this path? Some little bit of insight would help, because if someone is starting to think through, I want to do what you're doing today, so maybe it's not relevant at this point in time, but what sparked your interest to get into this space?
So right before that, it was we were doing a lot of DevOps type projects. DevOps transformation is kind of the buzzword, a word that a lot of people wanted but didn't quite understand, what it meant. And I think cloud offered the ability to really bring or automate a lot of more things that were not possible when they were on-prem. And so that's what kind of initially piqued my interest as coming from the software engineering side, always having those traditional kind of DevOps challenges. And then a lot of those things just became much easier in the cloud. There are ways to kind of automate end to end your full process, from writing code to ending up in production, and just make it repeatable. Whereas so much of our time before that was spent on, debugging issues in different environments, and just no consistency. A lot of our time was just spent trying to always chase our tails in those different situations.
Makes sense. This is interesting. I think as you're explaining your career, one thing that one thing I'm observing is there is a constant evolution in how things are done. So for instance, DevOps heavy focus was on automating the deployment, getting the features out faster, and then there's a lot of automation around it. And the cloud, of course, the whole value proposition of cloud is you can get the features out faster to your customers. It was going down the path. Now, a follow-up question is, where do we think we are going from here? Now, we have solved these problems. I think there are solutions today. And of course, we can continue to optimize it. But where do you think someone can go from here, from a career or from a overall problem or challenge solving perspective?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's different parts of my career that I've seen over time that initially companies did need a lot more expertise into, like, how do we do these things that we do on-prem today? How can we do them in the cloud, or do them slightly different, embrace, cloud native technologies? Seems like over the years, those skill sets and just kind of that mindset has become a lot more prevalent, where companies have a lot of that expertise in-house. And so the needs that we see a lot more are just around the data side. That's kind of where we've put a lot of our hiring focus, and where we're trying to get that expertise the most is, how do you take existing data that companies are, they've acquired a lot of data over the last several years. A lot of them are stuck in trying to figure out, like, what do we do with it? We know we have challenges from a business process standpoint, or ways that we can go monetize this data, but how do we take it in kind of its raw state that it is today, massage it, get it into a point where we're really, gaining valuable insights that we can go use. And so that's where we've seen just a lot of kind of open hands to say, like, hey, show me what's possible with what we have today.
So what job titles would you align with this? I think things that quickly come to my mind is data analytics, data science, business analytics. Am I right, or am I totally off?
No, I think all those things definitely do apply. I think there's we have kind of what we call a data engineering type role that is building out those pipelines where you're taking it from its raw state, or even building the pieces to go ingest more and more data from either IoT devices or other data sources, and take it through those different steps of maturity. So the first stage may be kind of in its raw form, and then you're taking it to normalize it a certain way or bring in third-party data to enhance it, all different kind of stages to getting it into a final stage where you can go run analytics, run your dashboards and reporting on top of it, or start to go build kind of your AI models and build chatbots on top of it. So that is, I think, a skill set almost all in itself, where you've got maybe ETL background, kind of data strategy background, and then you're kind of blending in some of the DevOps skill sets with it too, because a lot of those pipelines are built using Terraform and all the traditional DevOps type tools to deploy those. So it's an interesting kind of newer role that we're seeing. I think you've seen some other new roles, like with the Gidy.ai boom of like prompt engineers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a rapidly evolving space.
Interesting. If someone is just trying to get into the space or starting the career, what would you recommend as a typical skill set they should acquire to find a job as a data engineer? Can you bullet point like 3 things or 5 things?
Some type of cloud experience, I think, is key, and it's key because I think a lot of the cloud platforms that are out there, AWS for sure, has built-in services within their platforms that make a lot of these steps much easier. So building an AI model from scratch, if you don't have some of the cloud services that host it and surface up those models for you, it's a lot more tedious process. And so some type of cloud experience, I think all 3 of the major cloud providers really have these abilities, but I'd also say, like I just mentioned, some of your DevOps skill sets, everything should be automated. So for the same reasons that we tried to automate our software deployment, build and deployment process, we want to do the same thing with anything that we're building from a data perspective.
Awesome. Would you also recommend any scripting or coding language that they should be familiar with, like Python or JavaScript, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, Python we see a ton. It seems to be the common go-to for anything AI ML related, whether you're building Lambda functions or building out those ETL pipelines. Say Python is a must, and then either Terraform or CloudFormation, something that is automating the deployment or provisioning of those resources in the cloud.
Got it. Awesome. This is great, actually. We started off talking about your career and also gave some suggestions on how to get to your role and specific to the domain. You know what? I'm going to take a quick break, get a coffee or warm up this tea, and but we should talk more about how to survive in this current work environment. I definitely want to talk more about it, but let's take a quick break.